All right, so hello everyone, and welcome to the 32nd edition of the SparkCast.
Well,
And we have Zach's head in the corner. What would
hello.
happen there?
I am Zack's head.
Yeah. So Zach is a community manager at Team Dakota. So one of the developers of Project Spark. Uh, Zach, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Because this is the
Sure.
first time we are actually be uploading a video onto YouTube.
Absolutely. So,
When you feel good,
I'm Zach Wisnowski from Team Dakota. If you read the Project Spark forums, you'll know me as Spark Zack. And I do a couple things around the community, like making tutorials and telling you guys what we're up to here at the studio. Um, yeah.
All right, well, it's good to have you, Zach. So, Zach and/or Brian. Brian is the other Team Dakota community manager. Join us every week on the SparkCast, and you'll find the SparkCast on twitch.tv/Project Spark Community. We go live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, roughly, and 5 p.m. Pacific. So, real quick for the people who haven't seen what Project Spark is before, why are you watching this channel? No, so Project Spark is a game where you can basically make games, more or less. You can make other things in it, like while I was just doodling, I made Starry Night, a rendition of that, in about an hour. So you can make art with it as well. I've seen people make music videos with it. Linkin Park worked with Team Dakota to make a music video game for Guilty All the Same. That was a few months ago, and it's a free to play download. Well, it's a free download, and it's a free to play game. And there's additional content you can buy, either with in-game currency or with tokens, which you get through cash. If you just want a shortcut. Um, is there anything you would add to that? Zach?
No, it's like you said, free digital download for Windows 8.1 and Xbox. So you can find it now and open it up, and you'll see kind of take a tour. Highly encourage anyone to grab one of the tutorials in the game, or the tutorial, like the introduction tutorial we have there to create Empty World or even World Wizard. And poke around with it.
Yep. And welcome to the people that we have in chat. Feel free to ask Zach any questions you have.
Absolutely.
Goes for every week. Viewers who watch along with us are encouraged to interact with the Team Dakota to ask the questions that they have. Um, there was something I was thinking, and then I lost it, which is so common on these Sparkcasts. So I guess we'll just jump right in with it.
Okay.
Um, so going with those additional content you can buy, the next pack that's coming up is actually expressions. So what is the expressions pack?
Right, so the expression pack is a group of 22 emoticon icons and 6 animations. So we call them emotes. So emotes is animation, emoticon is 2D icon.
Okay, so what are the animations that are in this pack?
The animations in this pack, if I can call off the top of my head, is look around, alert, like you've been alerted to danger or something, and so look around, alert, cower, like you're afraid, um, give.
Want me to read them off, or are you good?
I think we're good.
Okay.
There's give, which is like you presenting an item or taking an item, and then what are the other two ones? Okay, you got me.
All right. So in order, just so I'm probably gonna relapse some of the other
Sure.
ones. Explain, listen,
Explain, absolutely.
give, point forward, and look
Point for
around, alert, and cower.
right.
Okay. So, and these animations are going to be across the different models in Project Spark, not just one animation total.
Right, exactly.
So, in Project Spark, there are a bunch of character models that are different body builds. There's like a Yeti build, there's a Goblin, there's a human female, there's a human male, and then there's a human brute, which is just this big hulking character. And they all have distinct animations that go along these themes.
Right, and every character, complex character that we have in Spark gets one of these animations, and with that, uh, we want each of these archetypal characters to have a different kind of set of emotions or a different personality. So each of these animations does have a different personality. Like the Yeti is kind of a very slow, long, drawn out explain. A lot of people say it's like a oratorial or like a teacher talking, and then the Goblin's kind of like scrappy when he is explaining something.
And
So
the goblin has the twitchy ears too.
yeah, twitchy. Looks really really awesome.
That just happened. So, why was this pack put in? Like, why did we need a emote builder pack?
I mean, I think what we really wanted to do is help people have one of the biggest things was storytelling. So one of the best ways to think about that in a bubble is like kind of cutscenes or a dialogue tree, right? If you had a dialogue tree that you're trying to make in Project Spark before, where you're talking to this person and depending on what you say to them, they'll have a different reaction. There simply wasn't enough reactions. Another thing we have in there is the listen emote, and that's another great thing for conversation, because without just a simple, listen emote, it can be kind of hard for you to show a scene of people interacting if someone always has to be doing stuff.
Right, because their default idle animations will kick in, and then sometimes they'll do things like yawn or, dust himself off.
Yeah, right.
Or start looking around.
Lady Laren says that she really likes the marketing video for this.
That was
and
great.
That's done by Keith on our team, and he just did a great job with that.
Yeah, so
That level actually. So if you look at the marketing video, that level that's displayed there, we will be sharing that tomorrow when the pack goes out, so everyone can kind of open it up and take a look at it.
that's really cool. I was about to ask about that.
Absolutely.
Because he does some creative things with the primitives as well. It's not just the emotes that are the showcase.
I mean, Keith's an incredibly creative guy, so yeah, he does a lot of really cool stuff.
So this dead pause came because I was reading a question from the community. Will torso-only emotes allowing for movement be a thing?
We have some of them. There's none of this pack. It's something we want to explore, but we'll see what happens in the next emote pack. Will it be a thing? It can be a thing. I don't know if those are the next set of emotes we'll do.
Fingers crossed. Really hope so.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Like with Project Spark, it's an ongoing development. You're not just saying, "Well, we have 6 more months of stuff we're gonna make, and then we're done."
Right. So, and also the last torso-only emote we did was the wand for Seth, right? Our wizard champion. Mm-hmm. Technically, everyone can now have a wand. You can see a Yeti with a wand, and you can see anyone with a wand. If they can equip items, they can now have a wand animation. So it is something we want to keep adding. That's our last one. Hopefully we'll add more.
So, Kraken wants to know, is there anything in the pack that would draw a Connect owner besides the 2D icons?
Well, the 2D icons are the 2D emoticons are a big part of it, but besides that, I mean, you only have so much Connect time. 10 minutes seems like a lot until you start cropping it down and seeing how much you can get in.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to save your Connect stuff for more kind of bombastic and crazy ideas. So I don't know. The emotes here, we tried to make, like I said, good storytelling emotes, and hopefully they'd be useful for anyone. I think people with Connect also use the default emotes as much as anyone else. So if you think the default emotes are useful, emote animations are useful, you'll probably think these are just as useful.
And Infrared, who on Twitch is a different name, just 3 letters and then 3 numbers, he's requesting that a tile be added as a modifier to the paint tile to be without effect. I'm actually kind of surprised that this isn't already a modifier for painting.
Oh, well, paint without effect? That's something we can look into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the first time I've ever heard anyone ask for that.
Yeah, so, if it's easy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll look into it.
Thriller is a great example of what you can do with a music video with Connect Minute and 10 minutes of recording.
Absolutely.
Well, you have the
Thriller
zombies.
was a great Connect recording. It was really, really awesome. I really like that.
Oh, I mean, I thought the original Michael Jackson video was Made in Connect.
Oh,
No?
no, turns out that's not true. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm about to be sued, so this will be the last SparkCast. No.
Is
So
it possible to hug a spark? Says Maple. So I believe so. I don't believe sparks are actually hot.
tangible?
Well, I was gonna say hot.
Oh,
So you can probably hug them. Now, how much resistance you would feel, I couldn't say. But you could definitely wrap your arms around them without your arms bursting into flames. So in that sense, you can hug a spark.
so that's a well-informed answer.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, so that leads into the next topic. In a prior life, you were actually a teacher for game development.
Yes, that's correct. In
So
a
how
prior
long did you
life.
spend doing that?
I taught, helped kids at university level for two whole semesters. So one summer semester and one fall semester.
So, based on that experience, like, what would you advise for either new members or veteran members of the community that you think would improve the quality of levels in Project Spark? Something that,
Opening up other people's levels and seeing what they've done is a big way. Obviously, if you haven't yet, I'd check out the Join Project Spark YouTube channel. We have a kind of a growing number of tutorials there that cover many different areas of Project Spark. That'd be a really good starting point. But even if you're an advanced user, I would say opening it up. If you're a really truly advanced user and you would like to start learning a lot about Project Spark, I would either open up Crossroads or I would open up the
Champion's Quest.
Champion's Quest. Right. Unfortunately, it's called Creation Quest here because we had to change the name. So everywhere in all of the documents you see, it's always Creation Quest, and it should be called Champion's Quest.
Whoops.
Yeah, whoops indeed. But I would open up those two play experiences, remix them, and see how stuff is done there because that is a lot of work by people who are in. And also, the cool thing about just a little background. The cool thing about Crossroads is it has a lot of different developers that will put stuff in to Crossroads as like different encounters.
Mm-hmm.
So every different encounter can be coded by someone else, and it can be put together by someone else. And I unfortunately don't think you can unglue all the assemblies, which is unfortunate. But you can see most of the brains. So.
Right. And some of the major players who went involved with the Creation Quest and Champion's Quest coding were Steve O and wow, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. He's a really cool guy.
Zack. No? So not Zack.
No, not Zach.
There's so many people who've worked on it, I don't know who you're talking about. Are you talking about
Jerome.
Claude?
No, Claude. Yes, Claude.
Yeah. Yeah,
Why did I think Jerome?
I think
I'm an awful person.
I don't think you're an awful person. I think you're fine.
And James was primarily World Wizard, wasn't he?
He worked on. He's touched everything, to be perfectly honest.
Okay. But I remember Steve-O was primarily involved in like enemy mechanics and stuff like that.
He makes amazing bosses. There's no two ways about it.
And so, one of the things I noticed was with the competitions, particularly the Game Jam, it was a short duration. Was this like it was only 3 weeks? Was that built upon by your experience with giving out assignments?
Oh, for this, I'd say, honestly, had it been up to me, it probably would have been a little shorter.
Really? Shorter?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So a good way to learn especially if you're getting into any kind of development, game development, and this obviously goes for Project Spark as well, is do a lot of small projects. So I would say give yourself something, as much as you want to restrict yourself. You could do 24 hours to try to make a certain kind of game, or you could do a week, or you could do 2 weeks, but anything over 2 weeks starts to get a little rough unless you really have a good idea about what you're doing. Creating different things within the span of about 2 weeks is probably a really good kind of starting point.
See, that's surprising to me because there are some people who are like really good creators and they haven't actually released anything yet because they're still developing the one thing they've been working on the entire time they've been using Project Spark.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really great to see. but I don't know what their previous experience is with development, and I think they've made absolutely amazing. Some of the people who come to mind have made absolutely amazing levels. But if you wanted to know just more in general about the Project Spark, or any kind of anything, right? Any kind of development tool, which includes Spark, you want to do multiple different kinds of projects, and that gives you kind of a more breadth and more context.
And it would be actually nice to see finished products from these people because they're making some things that are great, but they're not actually complete or if ever finished, for that matter. So I guess they're a lot like Project Spark. They're in perpetual development, but Spark is actually released while in perpetual development. I don't know how to correlate the two.
Yeah, well, game as a service is what you might call. We are,
There you go.
you know,
So if you were to, this is like off the top of your head type thing, but if
Okay.
you were to come up with like assignments for people to learn how to do things in Project Spark, like what tasks would you give out to them for short periods, like for a weekend or something like that?
yeah, it'd be rough because I need to know what they're comfortable with in terms of coding, but I'll just kind of spit out three. So if you are an advanced user, I would say create a shop from Crossroads without copying, pasting any lines, and create a shop that's very close to the ones that you see in Crossroads that you spawn buildings in, like the pie shop or blacksmith shop, anything like that. Recreating one of those will teach you a lot about Project Spark. If you consider yourself intermediate, excuse me, I would try to create, maybe look at our Infinite Runner tutorial, or our RPG starter kit that we have up on
YouTube.
in the game. We have it on YouTube, and we also have it in the game.
Oh,
Look
really?
at yeah. So the RPG starter kit, or YouTube or RPG starter kit, I try to recreate that, or the Infinite Runner that we have up on YouTube as well. And if you're just starting Project Spark, walking through the tutorial in game is a very good place to start.
Right, but beyond that, would you just tell people to make a really simple platformer or something like that, like reach the top of a mountain sort of thing?
Right. So that's the one thing we have in game, right? Making a mountain that you place a flag on, and then it'll create your level. One step above that, you might think about making a 2D side scroller platformer, or you might want to ask the community for ideas, either on projectspark.org or in projectspark.com community forums.
And the cool thing about the 2D side scroll is you can actually take some code from what's it called? I want to say Purgatory, but I know it's wrong. The black and white one. What's it called?
I know what you're talking about. I forget what it's called in Project Spark, unfortunately.
Yeah, me too.
It's called like Substance or Resistance or
Suspension.
Suspension. Yeah.
Yep, that's.
Ah,
And a quick tip for users who do want to do 2D games. If you're on the PC, make use of the work plane. And where the work plane is set up to, by default, leave it there and build on that axis rather than repositioning the axis. Because every time you reload the work plane, you'll have to move the axis of the work plane again. Otherwise, so by default, just leave it where it is. And that will save you a lot of time.
How could I possibly? Also, if you're trying to learn about Project Spark in general, you need to check out Mescad's YouTube channel. Jeez, I don't know how I possibly forgot that for like more than 3 seconds.
Who's Mescad?
Yeah, check out Mescad's channel.
So Mescad is like the most predominant of the YouTubers who are doing Product Spark tutorials. But there's also Sarah's Tackleys, Mallet Space Studios, and a bunch of other smaller ones who have made a handful of tutorials. There is actually a relatively new one who is just interested in showing how to do the more visually impactful changes, so more of the superficial stuff. Like ways to make your props colored similarly, quickly, that sort of thing.
Very cool.
So that's another place where you can learn. Another thing you can say is build to your strengths. Like if you like designing things from a visual standpoint, right, more so than coding, then there are people out there who have absolutely no interest whatsoever on doing the visual stuff and only want to code. And you can work with those people.
Absolutely.
And learn in the process. Like, you will be editing their stuff and asking them how to do it.
If you have one particular thing you'd like to do, I'd definitely say go into the Project Spark forums and find someone to partner with. If you have an Xbox, you can also do multiplayer, which can help immensely. I just want to say, what would it feel like to be a Spark? I imagine it would feel like the sensation you get when you're creating a level and it feels like you're making something and you test it, you make it for the first time, you test it, and then you see that it all works the first time you try it. It'd probably be that perpetual feeling of happy creation. That's what it'd feel like to be a Spark.
Well, Spark are the creators, right? So we are all the Sparks.
Indeed.
Okay.
So whilst you're creating...
Good deal.
Yeah, Mesca definitely does need more tutorials on COD. Good to point that out.
COD?
Call of Duty.
Oh, that was like cash on delivery or something.
You, sir, are not a gamer. Don't even. I don't want to talk.
No, I don't play first-person shooters at all. That's not my genre. It's kind of weird that we have a genre named after the camera and what you do while you're in the camera.
Actually, it's not. So, one thing when you're making a game, the very first thing you do is you think about the camera and how you interact with the world, right? That's
True.
like exactly how. That's the whole part of a game is how you interact with the system.
But I mean, there are games where you freely transition between first person and third person.
Right. We call those adventure because we don't know what to do with them. But anything else, third person over the shoulder camera, top down shooter, 2D side scroller, they're all the camera relation to the player and how the camera moves around the world. Because the camera is really, if you kind of abstract it, the camera is actually the player, and it's less that actual person you see on screen. Because the camera is like moving around, and that's how you get to see this whole kind of system you're interacting with.
That's pretty meta.
Yeah. Well, even if the player dies, right, you still have this menu thing, and that's part of the camera, so to speak. So that's one way to think about it.
Yeah, and now I'm not going to be able to unthink that. I am not Mega Man. I am watching Mega Man.
Right.
And pulling his strings.
The only reason you think you're Mega Man is because you have empathy, which humans have so much of. It's crazy.
It's true, and actually, today's extra credits episode was based on empathy, where they were trying to show that video games reduced human empathy, but you could actually just as easily make the argument that playing a video game will actually increase human empathy, because when Eris died, you felt empathy for that, right?
Mm.
You're like, why doesn't the Phoenix Down work at this point? Why? You know.
Well, you never say when you're playing a game, right? You never say, oh, well, I'll just use Avalon as an example, our Druid champion, right? You never said like, oh, and then Avalon shot wrong, and then something hit her, and then the game was over. You always say, and then I shot, and then I got hit, and then the game ended for me, right? So you're empathizing with the character that you're playing.
Yeah, and the example that they used was this War of Mine. Are you familiar with that game?
Yeah, I am. I haven't had a chance to play it, unfortunately.
So the general concept of it, for those who haven't, is it's playing the regular civilians during war in a city that's under siege of some sort, and it has several really serious situations, like where you'll got scavenging for food, trying to keep your family alive. And in this setting, the guy came across a soldier abusing his power, and he had to decide: am I gonna just quietly scoot away, or am I going to then break in and attempt to stop the soldier from doing something that's really bad.
Right.
And then you have to think, well, I'm gonna be the hero. I'm gonna save save the girl. But then you think, but if I do that, probably gonna die, and then my wife and children who are back home are then gonna starve to death. And that's something that someone else is ever gonna have to think about. Hopefully, first world problems, but hopefully no one here will have to experience that situation.
You're talking about the buying into the character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
people have to buy into characters. It takes a lot for people to buy into characters in general. Yeah. And it can be harder in a game for sure.
And I'm sure everyone has those memories of one time when a character died and then they felt lost for the first time when they were a kid, whereas they didn't actually, they didn't have a dog die at that point, so that was the first time they'd ever feel like they lost someone.
Absolutely.
So basically their point was, why aren't there studies about that as opposed to just saying that video games are making kids sociopaths?
Well, when you resurrect your character, it's hard to... When they get resurrected every 60 seconds, it's hard to empathize. I don't think I'd be resurrected in 60 seconds if I lost all my hit points, unfortunately.
Well, I guess you could associate that with just being knocked unconscious.
When I fall in fire / lava, boy, do I go unconscious.
I'm feeling faint. Yes.
Yeah, indeed.
You fall into a pit and then never come back out. Yep. So this is the part of SparkCast where we just come up with conversations to topics to talk about, because I'm out of them. But the good part about Project Spark is, again, it's ongoing, so things that used to be issues are still sometimes issues. And in that case, Brian just spent an insane amount of time responding to all the bug reports that have been posted on the forums.
I don't know if he wants me to tell you this. Did he tell you what happened today?
He did.
Okay. I just want to go over that.
You'll love this, guys.
Yeah, he responded to all those bugs, and unfortunately here, I don't have one. But we have these mice that unfortunately, on some of our workstations, where the left button, right, if this was the mouse, this side here, there's like a little left button, and it goes back if you press it. So we had spent about 2.5 hours, maybe a little more, responding to all the bugs in Lady Lex's forum post, I believe, and then he accidentally pressed the back button and lost all of his work because he didn't put into Word document or anything. He just put it all there and then pressed the back button.
So, pro tip to all users out there who do use the forums: even if you don't want to use an external document, if you use the quick reply, it will save your content.
Yes.
And you can press forward and then press quick reply again, and it'll all be there. So that's the lazy way to save it. So you don't have to spend another however many hours he did going through those again. But I did like how many of those were actually fixed, just that we didn't know they were fixed. There was a ton that said this was fixed a few patches ago, but we didn't think to mention it, or it didn't come up in the bug report, something like that. But I guess he had to go up to all the devs and ask them, is this done? Is this done?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. It's hard. We're always thinking about current issues, right? So we're always constantly fixing things, and sometimes in that kind of shuffle, we forget to document that things are changed. Happens all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that goes back to a couple weeks ago when I asked you, well, how much went into this one line that says bug fixes and performance improvements? And the answer was a lot.
Quite a lot, yeah.
So it's all that stuff that was in that thread that said fixed, but we didn't actually know it was fixed yet.
Yep, absolutely.
And you guys are still doing ongoing bug fixes for those that are still active.
Yeah, and just to give kind of an example of how this can be an issue over here at the studio, I think right now we have a bug where if you go into the water, you auto died or something. It was something similar to this that popped up today, and we got that resolved. But we have these big bugs that always come in while we're developing new stuff for the game, and there's so many of them so often. It's very hard to what's the word I'm looking for?
Document.
Know which ones are actually pushed out to the general public and which ones just stay in the studio. So if we just logged every bug, you'd see a ton of things like today. The player no longer dies when entering the water. And you'd be like, what?
What? Yes.
I don't think that was what do you call it? A bug, guys. I think that didn't actually happen. It'd be like, oh, was that just internally? So that's why you don't see every single bug change.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And chat is still going haywire with remembering all the things that made them sad in video games or somehow otherwise emotional.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, one of the things that comes to mind for me was Zelda Link's Awakening. Did you play that one? So this was the Game Boy one, and it was one of those. This is all a spoiler. If you haven't played this game from 1993, I apologize, but it turns out to be all a dream, and Link's love interest in that game is also part of that dream. And if he wakes up from this dream in order to escape the island, then she vanishes too. And that's one of those, like, what? This is a Nintendo game. It's not supposed to make you think like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And most of the other examples are based around Mass Effect, which is full of those scenarios. Like the Geth. So the Geth are the sentient android race of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point you have the option to either reprogram all of them or destroy them. Fight them and destroy them. And that makes you think, like, it's kind of like what makes us human. Like, if you were able to reprogram all humanity, are we still humans at that point? Or should we just be destroyed because something core to us is being taken away?
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. It's also very interesting that you really, really telling because games are good at really different kinds of emotion. For some reason, a lot of people associate sadness, right, kind of with the height of what you want to call it, literature or storytelling. But games they're okay at that. Maybe possibly a little worse than movies or books, but they're really great at choices and making you think about choices. They do that much better than the other two forms of media that I was talking about, which is probably why they're more successful. Or I should say that why games are more successful, because choice is much more interesting than emotion, usually. Both examples you gave are different choices where you get to decide.
And these aren't just calculations. Like, you're not saying, this sword is +1 strength and that sword is +2 strength. I'm going to go for the 2 strength sword instead of the 1. So it's actually a choice based on morals or something else other than just a addition or direct comparison.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it makes you really examine, some of your thoughts or how you think, which is really cool.
So psychology doesn't seem to be a very distant concept for video game creation. Is it something that goes into, like, legitimate, like, game development?
For a lot of people, yeah. A lot of it is obviously a lot of it's psychology based, and a lot of it is even brain chemistry based, and a lot of it's just it's all about how humans make choices and how they perceive those choices as fun or not fun, and you can look at that different ways, right? You can look at that as kind of the artistic crafting experience. You can also look at that as like, well, I don't know if manipulative is the right word. I think you can use a canon, is what they say, right? Or you can use, what do they call those things? They have the classical 8-head figure, and then they have the Hellenistic 9-head figure, and they have the fashion 10-head figure. And
I honestly have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, really? Oh, it's different body types for different kinds of drawings. Okay. So classical, like Greco-Roman, they use like 8 heads, and then Hellenistic they use 9, and then fashion they use 10 heads, and there are different canons for these body types. And so you could say, like, well, is it art if you're measuring out every single thing I don't know. I mean, it depends what you think.
And I mean, I know that some games actually will use studies from Skinner, and the what was it called, the Skinner's pigeon, where you get a
Hmm.
random reward and all that stuff. Where they'll have random payouts to get people to continue to keep playing. I don't think that was Skinner's pigeon that did the random payouts though.
Yeah, I'd have to relook at it. By the way, the Epic Artist Pack is truly, literally epic. If you guys have any questions about Spark, as much as I love to talk about game design, because it's one of my passions, I'm also willing to answer questions about Project Spark if you happen to have any.
Yes, please ask questions related to Project Spark. But yeah, and you couldn't see it, but I was giving Zack the death stare when he was saying it was literally epic. But
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't see you in real time, which is a shame.
indeed, um, yeah. But games like Candy Crush, they delve deeply into the psychology to get players to continue coming back or to continue giving money. Last I checked, we're making 100, not 100 million, but $1 million a day just from microtransactions. Those little tiny power ups.
Absolutely. There's interesting patterns in that. There's also interesting patterns in games like, I don't know, even the game that you like the most, whatever that is for you, or you feel the most emotional investment in. It's patterns, but so is like a book, and so is movies. They work off patterns as well. So, yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Kraken, would you like to expand upon the question of can you share about the squirrel coon choice? I'm not sure what that is
Oh, he
referencing.
means yeah, sure. So the squirrel in Project Spark used to, by our artists, be deemed a raccoon, and everyone's like, uh, no, that looks like a squirrel. And like, no, I drew this. It's a raccoon. That's what it is. It's kind of like, I don't know if I should use this because obviously our artists are amazing, and I don't want to
I think we've already.
belittle them in any way, but it's kind of like when a kid draws something and you're like, that's a really great cat, and they're like, that's a dog. So everyone saw this raccoon that was made. They're like, oh well, that is a great squirrel. And they're like, no, and they're like, no, great squirrel. And then someone put it in, I think, as a joke into the game as like squirrel or Spark Squirrel. Everyone's like, okay, fine. Eventually, we just gave up on it and it ended up being a squirrel and not a raccoon.
I had actually heard a slightly different version of that,
Mm.
where originally it was a gray raccoon, and then it was recolored to be red to be a squirrel,
Yeah.
and then there was some kind of twisting of the model.
Yeah. I think the head got twisted around
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was
Yeah.
at PAX East, um, it was Jed who said, "Oh yeah, that's not what we call it around the office." I'm like, "Well, what do you call it around the office?" And then I kept pestering him because he wouldn't tell me. He was like, "It's a secret. It's internal or something like that, something along those lines." And then eventually said, "All right, fine. We call it the damn thing's head is on upside down." So, yeah. So evidently, Jed still has a little bit of a upset stomach in regards to the transition of the squirrel from being a raccoon.
Jed does this great thing where he'll get frustrated at one point and then he'll do something really inspired, like turning the squirrel's head upside down. Also, he did that with the 2D icon pack. He was like, you want me to make a marketing image for a 2D icon pack? I don't even know. How am I supposed to possibly? You know what? Fine. And then he makes this great marketing image. I don't know if you've seen the 2D icon, or the 2D primitives, sorry. 2D primitives pack.
Oh,
But it's like,
yes.
yeah, so the 2D primitives pack, it looks absolutely, it's like one of the most amazing images for any of our packs, and it's all about primitive 2D icons.
Well, flat, which is like what's called thin primitives, right?
Then primitives, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Um, and a lot of people didn't even know that that was created inside of Spark. They thought it was a painting.
Yeah.
So, and Mascad just posted a link to some early concept art. So let's look at that.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Oh yeah, there you go. Wow.
Those are some really cool things.
You guys can see all this. That's cool.
So the squirrel does look like that in the early concept art. That's not upside down at all. So I guess it was before, After?
Well, I think you need to look above. What you're looking at is a raccoon. The thing above it is a squirrel. Thank you.
Oh wow, it is. Or are those rabbits?
No,
Oh no!
that's
Oh wow! No, directly above it is the squirrel.
yeah, directly above it.
Oh, my mind is blown right now.
Your mind is completely blown.
And then there's the four-ear semi-squirrel to the right of that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to post a link to this, like, next to the YouTube video, so people
I
can actually.
love the weird giraffe thing. I'm so sad that that did not make it into the game as one of the default animals.
Like, it better at some point.
It's just so ridiculous. Oh, man.
Are those a bunch of like 6 arms hanging down from the side of it?
Yes.
That's amazing.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
So do we know who drew this?
I don't want to say the wrong name, so I don't want to say.
Okay.
But
But
pretty much, yeah.
Get back to us if you get the chance, because this is
Yeah.
amazing.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, I don't know who did that, but I can definitely find out.
All right. So circling back, when does the expression pack come out?
Especially when the pack comes out tomorrow.
And what's the cost in tokens and credits?
I believe it's 300 tokens, and I would have to double check the credits, but I'm almost positive it's 1,200 credits, and that's for premium.
Right. So for new users, tokens are the money version of real world money version of purchasing things in Spark. And when things are initially released, there's an early introductory period where they're sold at a discount. And if a user has Spark Premium, which is basically an optional monthly subscription to Project Spark for, I believe it's roughly $8 a month, something like that, then you can use the in-game currency immediately to purchase the packs. Otherwise, you have to wait until the early introductory period ends to use credits, the in-game currency earned from playing Project Spark.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have you guys announced what's coming after the expressions pack?
We have not.
Any idea of when we're going to hear more from this?
Yeah, probably. You could hear the name maybe next week. Maybe next week's stream will share something a little bit.
But not tomorrow's stream.
But not tomorrow's stream.
Okay. Do we have any hints as far as what genre it would be? Sci-fi, fantasy, or abstract?
Yeah, I can't think of a good hint to give you at the moment, unfortunately.
How about its initials?
Nope. Doesn't have initials yet, sorry.
You guys aren't giving me much to work with.
Its initials is WHIP. Work in progress.
Okay, fine.
I did share it for you. Yeah, I'll think of a good next time when I come on here. I'll think of a good hint to give out. Unfortunately, I don't have one for you this week.
So Zack and or Brian generally alternate who's going to be on the stream with us. So next week I expect it to be Brian, unless heavy workload for one of you twists up the schedule a little bit. But so we expect Zack to be on in 2 weeks, and that would be maybe closer to the release of the next pack.
Yeah, it'll definitely be closer to the release of the next pack.
And Halo tutorial brings up a good topic. Last year you guys did a bunch of trade shows. PAX East, PAX Prime, GDC.
Yeah. I know that I am getting ready to go to GDC. I would have to check. So I know we'll have something at GDC. I'm not quite sure about the other shows. I've been heads down on that one. So.
Okay. So.
But we will be at the Game Developer Conference in San Francisco.
Is that open to the public?
You have to buy a pass, but anyone can buy a pass. And the expo passes for last day are only $75.
Okay, so if you guys want to go down and meet Zack and hang out at the Spark booth,
absolutely,
you can do that And if they wanted to, do you guys need volunteers for that at all, or are you guys set?
If you'd like to volunteer at the booth, you could contact you could say something anywhere. You could go to the forums, you could file a support ticket, you could, if you have my email, feel free to email me. If you have Brian's email, feel free to email Brian. If
you
want
can even contact me, and I'll pass the note along.
Right, absolutely. If you are in the San Francisco Bay Area and you would like to swing by the Spark booth, let me know.
I strongly recommend it. Like, some of the most fun I've had over the past 2 years was just going to these trade shows and hanging out with the Spark people. Even working at the booth and telling people about Project Spark was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Because the very first time we actually met Team Dakota was at PAX East, and they made a whole big thing of it where we had, I think it was like 6 or 7 community volunteers show up, including Brian, who ended up getting a job out of it. And you worked at GDC last year, right?
I did, yeah.
So if you want a job at Team Dakota, you have to work at the booth.
I will neither confirm nor deny that.
It doesn't hurt, is the thing.
Probably does not hurt.
So as far as community people, we've had even Oxenovo. He was at the British BAFTAs.
Yeah, and Lady Laren was up here in
PAX
Seattle.
Prime, yes. So we've had, Kim was awesome. I met her at Gamescom as well. For as far as community volunteers, we've had Invisible Doogie, who's Spark Brian now, or just Brian, who works for Team Dakota. Myself, Aracilde Demal, Nini Chu, Bob Schmacky. Wirt Andrew flew all the way from Greece to Boston to work at PAX East. We had ZZ Targ and Eric in the Bakery for PAX Prime, as well as KMK Hunter, and trying to also Fred D from the back end of ProjectSpark.org. He was at both San Diego Comic-Con and PAX East.
Very
So
cool.
it's really cool just to meet like other community members at these events. Is there any plans of having like a official SparkCon or something like that?
No official plans.
But if we were to have a SparkCon, you'd be pretty much obligated to show up.
I mean, obligated is a strong word. Willing would be. I think willing would be good. Willing to show up.
Yeah. So that'll be something that we'll keep in mind when we start piling up money for all the ads that we're not selling on project-spark.org. Well, with that in mind, we're about at time. Is there anything you'd like to finish up with? Or anyone else in the community, if this is your last chance to toss questions out to Zack. But is there anything you'd like to throw up?
No, I mean, I'd just like to say that I enjoyed I think in terms of one of the most fun I've had on the streams here at Team Dakota was actually last week. Me and Brian both made a level with 3 bugs for each other, and we went over that. That was very fun.
Right, that was your Tuesday tutorial streams.
Right.
So what time and what channel are those?
That's 12 to 1 on every Tuesday, so 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. every Tuesday.
Pacific time.
PST, yeah. But if you want to go on YouTube and check that video out, I know I had a lot of fun, and the viewers said they had a lot of fun. So if you know code, if you don't know code all that well, then go to the YouTube channel, check out how to code. But if you already feel like you know a little bit of coding and you want to learn about debugging, you want to see me and Brian kind of mess with each other a little bit, I'd go check that out.
Yeah. So what other topics are you guys going to be doing for your Tuesday tutorials?
So we're definitely coming up with a modular dungeon.
Okay.
We're going to have another developer on, probably Keith, relatively soon here, and he's just going to make random interesting props / assemblies in Project Spark. And then we're going to be doing Rapture 1, or is it just Rapture? From the forums. Asked us how to do a menu set of menus for a game. So we'll be doing that as well. And then we're kind of playing around with doing a stream on save states, because that's something that people have been requesting.
Right, and that would be using the Massive World Builder pack.
Massive World Builder pack, yeah.
Yeah, because if people don't already know, there is a way to use the campaign tile, which is normally used to transfer variables and such from one level to another.
Oh, Infrared wants to know what I shampoo my beard with. Alkaline shampoo. That's what you want to use.
See, when I had my beard, I didn't like wash it at all.
Not a good idea. Don't do that.
Why?
Bad advice. Because this you have to keep it trimmed and you have to keep it well nourished.
Oh, I actually didn't
Everything
trim
good.
the thing at all either.
Oh.
It was just like 5 months of growth, and it was very warm. And
Yes, I know, right? Ooh, oh my! Makes my face so warm. It's so nice when it gets cold.
well, I mean, it gets only like what 70 degrees in Seattle. Poor you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Poor me. It's only below freezing sometimes. Ooh, I'm such a wuss.
Slightly
Oh
below freezing, and I feel so bad for you as opposed to me with zero with -20 wind chills. Chills, that's awesome.
yeah.
I'm sure this is well for you. It's cold because you were a San Francisco kid, right?
Yup. Pretty cold.
Were you born and raised San Francisco, or did you go from elsewhere?
Around the Bay Area and from like San Diego, so always warmer than here.
Yeah. Well, Seattle wasn't that bad at all when I was there.
Yeah. Well,
It was humid, but
that's how they get you. They have you come up in summer and they're like, oh, isn't it so nice? And you're like, wow, why do people even complain?
well, actually, the day I was there, we got up in like 90 something, and Reeb had to turn on the not air conditioning, but the fans. He was like, "Yeah, sorry, we don't have air conditioning. Nobody has air conditioning up here."
Yeah. Right. Well, okay, guys.
Well,
I think
that's it.
yeah, that'll do it for our time. I got another meeting to run to, so I'm gonna actually cut it short
Sure.
this week.
And if you guys have any suggestions for Tuesday tutorials, I'm sure that they'd be interested in hearing what you guys would like to learn.
Absolutely. If you want to put something on the forums, you want to give us a private message, either Spark Brian, Spark Zack on the Project Spark forums. We really want to hear what you guys want to do with tutorials going forward. So feel free to ping us.
All right, thanks everybody for joining, and thanks Spark Zack and or Brian especially.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to be a member of the SparkCast as a community member, you can contact me, and then we'll have you on camera, and you can talk directly with us. All right. So with that said, see you guys all next week. Thanks for the time.
See you.